it's not going anywhere. You know, SummerSlam was almost a duplicate of Battleground, people have said. The match ended the same way. You know, so I think we'll see that storyline kind of fade out, and maybe we'll finally see a run at the title from Sheamus. It'll be interesting to see if he cashes in soon. So.
Yeah, I think that the whole thing with Sheamus, and I make jokes about him almost all the time, you know, having my Money in the Bank briefcase. And
Yes.
when I saw him at SmackDown in Green Bay, I make the joke about him saying, like, I have the real briefcase and everything like that. My briefcase is better. And I remember Kevin Owens coming out, and I look over to Kevin Owens, and then I look back over to Sheamus, and I almost see him kind of looking at me, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm holding up my briefcase, I'm ready to go.
It's banging on that thing, right?
So many people would have just, I think so many people would have loved to see, you know, me in there. I'm not really that much of an experienced wrestler, but I think so many people would have loved to see somebody from, you know, Wisconsin just go in there and show Sheamus what's up.
Yeah.
I remember even leaving the event, and so many people, and there was actually one guy who just came out to me and was like, oh, I saw you cash in, and I had one of my title belts with me and everything. It's like, yeah, and that Sheamus guy, he's just trying to, you know, steal my gimmick and everything.
Yeah. Taking away the whole Nate the Great gimmick.
Oh, I'm always gonna be Nate the Great. Sheamus can try saying that he's the Great White, he's the Great Sheamus or whatever, the Great King Sheamus or whatever, but he's never gonna be as great as me. Let's just get that out on the table right now, guys. So now going from that into something that's going to tie in very well together. Tag team in WWE and the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic,
yes,
starting tomorrow night on NXT. Let's just start going into Raw. Let's talk about this feud that they're having between Primetime Players, New Day, and the returning Dudley Boys, who came back last week.
I was so happy when I saw those fireworks come out of the rafters, and I'm thinking to myself, no, this isn't happening. Then the Dudley music comes up, and oh man, they came out, and I honestly was shocked. And I don't get shocked very often because I can predict storylines, and I'm pretty good about figuring them out. The whole Dudley Boy thing threw me for a loop. It honestly, because I knew once the New Day won the championships back that there was going to be a new storyline somewhere. I thought for a minute that we might see the Usos again. You know, they're going to be coming back soon. But I think the incorporation of the Dudley Boys is a fantastic move, and it really ties in fans from the Attitude Era into the PG era, and it just kind of ties everything together. So I think it's a fantastic idea.
And I even said this on yesterday's podcast, that the Dudley Boys are like two people who you can honestly see being either face, you know, they could be the top baby faces right now, taking over Primetime Players, the Usos, everything like that, or they could be the top heels and taking the spot of, you know, the New Day and the Ascent. Well, who's in our heel team? There's the New Day, there's the Ascension,
the Los Matadores,
yeah.
I hope that over the next coming, you know, we don't know how long we're going to see the Dudley Boys.
I think they're actually in a full-time contract for at least a couple of years. I think this is where they're going to kind of, you know, end their wrestling deal.
Yeah.
And I loved the idea of having the Dudley Boys as tag team champions, but I actually said this yesterday, that I think if they're going to put the titles on them, I think there's no bigger spot than WrestleMania, because A, they've never won at WrestleMania, so that would kind of make up for that, and B, that's like the best way to make a legacy right there. You're saying that this is the 25th reign, this is the 10th reign for WWE. This is one of those things where you could say, you know, remember WrestleMania 32 where we won our 25th tag team championships, and we could finally say that we are the greatest tag team. I mean, so many people can honestly disagree. They could say, you know, it's the Road Warriors, it's Demolition, it's all this. But honestly, Dudley Boys are indeed the most decorated and the most gifted, you know, tag team in all of professional wrestling, because they've won every championship.
Right, and the Dudley Boys, if you're not a fan of wrestling, you don't really follow wrestling, you still know who they are. Because, you know, you go back 15, 20 years, you've got the Dudley Boys, you've got the Hardy Boys. You've got Edge and Christian. Some of the most memorable tag team matches in history. And let's ask this. You were talking about winning the titles at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see them winning them earlier, winning them in a TLC match at Tables, Ladders, and Chairs?
I can see that. At the same time, I think that it'd be one of those things that would... I don't know if I would say it'd be like a dead giveaway, but I think it'd be kind of one of those things that I think some people might think is too predictable. But also considering the fact that, TLC, Full Metal Mayhem, whatever, they haven't really won that matchup as a team. I'm trying to think back at like everything from TNA to WWE. I'm thinking to myself, I have not seen them win the title, whether it be, Devon and Bubba Ray, whether it be Bubba Ray and Spike Dudley when they did that whole deal back in like 2003. Actually, I don't know if you heard the story, but I say this story so many times. And I'm sorry for anybody that I piss off by bringing this story up, but it is such a good story. We were talking about concussions before coming onto the show, and I talked a lot about Drew McIntyre's one when he was on the show, and one that kind of stood out to me was. There's also stories about Dolph Ziggler's concussion where he was just completely out of it. Bubba Ray's was just one of the most brutal I think I've seen. And I've seen like the matchup in its entirety. It was a 4-way TLC match, and I think it was Las Vegas in 2003.
Okay.
And they... Actually, I'm trying to remember. I think the teams were the Hurricane and Kane, Christian and Chris Jericho, Bubba Ray and Spike, and RVD and Jeff Hardy for the tag team titles. And... I remember they showed a spot to where Jericho did a diving bulldog from the top of the ladder on Bubba Ray, and he just spiked his head so hard. And there's a point where Bubba Ray, you know how he has a look whenever he sends somebody through a table, and he's got that faraway look.
Yeah,
where
he hits
just
that
like
3D through the table. And
yeah.
It's just like...
Yeah, for those who don't know, like that shock value of just being out there. Just imagine if you have a concussion, you have that faraway look in your eye. That's kind of what Bubba Ray does every single time he puts somebody through a table.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it could be him having an orgasm.
Right.
But yeah, he had that same faraway look in his eye, and there's a spot where they were supposed to do, and Jericho whispers over to him. He says, Bubba, climb the ladder. And Bubba just looks at him, and it's like, how do I do that?
Right.
And there were a couple other spots where Jericho was basically choreographing the whole thing for Bubba. He said, hit the Bubba bomb. He says, what's that?
Yeah.
It's like, take the Van Daminator. And he says, from who?
From who?
It's like, I don't know, maybe that guy Rob Van Dam or something like that. But
concussions are just awful things. I don't know if you've ever had one, but
I actually did when I had my car accident. I just remember. I think I just remember talking more to my folks about it because I didn't remember anything that really happened from there. And even if you really hit your head hard enough, you can still get knocked for a loop and have like a temporary memory loss. And it's just like, what just happened?
Yeah, I used to play football, and I remember the concussion I got there. And that's something that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. It's horrible to have one because it's just like you don't really know where you are. You don't know what time of day it is. If it's pretty bad, you don't remember your name. So it's one of those things that it comes with the job. Concussions in WWE are quite frequent, and that's something that I think they're trying to incorporate some moves that don't hit the head, like for instance Seth Rollins' curb stomp, gone by the wayside because of concussions.
Right.
The whole thing of slamming the guy's head on the ground with your foot, not a very good thing when you've got concussion lawsuits and everything, and so.
I think they also try to ban a lot of moves that might end up breaking necks, like the pile drivers, especially tombstone, which I think is a dumb idea. I think that you have to find the right person to do the tombstone pile driver, and I know Undertaker seems like he's the only one that can really do it, but I think there's quite a few other people that could be able to do it. I don't see them doing it now, but in the near future, there's probably just going to be that one guy who you're just going to see, and it's like, oh, God, if he does a tombstone pile driver, that would just be awesome.
Yeah.
Like Hideo Itami or Kenta in NXT, more people want to see him do like the GTS instead of his diving foot stomp or his running knee deal.
Right.
But it's another one of those things where it's like a possible concussion situation. But I don't think with Kenta he's had that issue of having somebody hit it and give somebody a concussion.
Right.
But there may be that factor of somebody doesn't know how to take it. But then again, you've wrestled CM Punk. I think you know how to. I think you know how to take it. But going from the 3D to the Dusty Rhodes Classic Tag Team Tournament, honestly, I thought it was a great idea that William Regal brought up in Brooklyn. What are your thoughts on the Classic?
Going off what you said, I think it's an amazing idea. Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, one of the founders of NXT, the reason that NXT is there, and just a great mastermind of this entire division, putting people in NXT to learn their craft and to kind of train to, one day maybe make it up to the roster and just live that dream, Dusty Rhodes is one of those WWE legends that will live on forever, so the fact that they're creating a tag team battle royale kind of thing, in memory of the American Dream, I think cements his legacy. It'll be interesting to see who comes out the victor, but I think, when Regal announced it on NXT TakeOver, I'm thinking, oh, that's an amazing idea. I love it.
Do you have any favorites coming into the tournament?
I'd have to go with the current champs, the Vaudevillains. When I first started watching them, I'm like, I don't know if I enjoy their gimmick very much. But as I started watching them and just kind of paying attention, I really do enjoy them. So
it's like, how many of those kind of wrestlers do you actually see actually have like this like running black and white Titantron?
Yes, that's so fun. It really is.
I just hear this stuff. I just see this stuff. I'm thinking to myself, do these guys think that they're like in the 50s or something like that? What the hell is it? But I think the Vaudevillains are amazing. I think if I had to pick any team, I think I would go with Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy.
That's who I think will end up in the finals.
I think that those guys are this generation's version of the New Age Outlaws. They connect with the crowd. They can work with the crowd. They're kind of like a rock band. They're like a rock band who just has that one lyric that everybody just sings along with. And
every time you watch NXT, you see them come out. You hear the crowd. Every single word that comes out of Enzo's mouth. How you doing?
How you doing? You can't teach that.
Yeah, you can't teach that. Yeah, I think that's who it's going to come down to. You've got the current champions of the Vaudevillains, and then you've got Enzo and Cassidy. So now going into NXT. Well, let's talk about this. Now that they've kind of ended the whole thing with Finn Balor and Kevin Owens, where do you see Finn Balor going from here? It's tough because Finn Balor's climbed the rope twice. He's won that title from Kevin Owens, and he's successfully defended it. It'll be interesting to see. We were talking about this before. It'll be interesting to see if they decide to start another storyline with Finn Balor, or kind of put him in almost like a stasis mode. And, I honestly think he's going to be moved up to the roster. I think it's that time. They're looking for another great wrestler up in the main roster. I hope it happens soon, because I honestly, for the life of me, could not tell you where they're going with Finn Balor from here. I don't know if you have what you think. It's hard to tell.
I think that they've moved up so many of their big time players from NXT to the main roster, which you can understand why that's happening, because they're getting so over so fast.
Right.
But also that can set up a big downfall. But I think that Finn Balor is still going to stay on NXT for a while, and maybe he'll have feuds with...
Maybe we'll see a storyline with Baron Corbin. That's the person I could see. because he's got kind of that same, not gimmick, but he's got that I don't give a crap about anyone attitude, and to go after the champion, I think that may be a good storyline if done right. But other than Baron Corbin,
Well, you could probably see him,